What is going on, boys and girls? It is your boy, Temporary Citizen, and today I am on the mullet of motorcycles. Have a look at this. The MT09 Tracer, right? Business in the front and party in the rear, you know? So it is just a beautiful bike, and today I'm taking one for a spin. So a couple of things before I get started on this bad boy. I'm keeping the panniers on for authenticity. Got it on the center stand. And another couple of cool little things. You can adjust the seat height, you can adjust the headlight height, and you can adjust the windshield. So you can make it fit you, which I think is pretty sick. Oh, we'll see how we go. Fuck, lucky I'm a big boy. Alright, and that is the center stand. This is comfy. Alright. So, what we might do is, we will chuck it. There's so many cool things. And chuck it in A mode. Now this thing is bone stock. It doesn't have an exhaust or anything else, as you probably heard. And for the unknowing, the MT09 Tracer is a proper sports touring bike made on the body of an MT09. So what that means is that, like, if you do any sort of, like, proper riding, you're not going to hate yourself. And then if you want to go and have any fun, you're not going to hate yourself, because it's still got that MT09 power plant on it, which is just, you know, like, it's such a good base for so many things. There's so many cool stuff on here. So it's got this big cool screen on it. I've got it in A mode now because I stuffed that up with the MT09. Yep, still feels like that MT09 power. It's just got, you know, a bigger tank on it and that little windscreen that actually stops stuff. So the 16-year-old temp sits would have been like, why the hell would you buy that bike? It looks dumb and stupid. The 80-year-old living in the 23-year-old temp sits' body, he froths all over this, alright? Yesterday he had to ride home from work in soaking down Wayne, getting absolutely pounded like he was a Marquez supporter on Facebook, where every raindrop was like a Rossi supporter just fucking digging into him. That was me. So this excites me. Another cool thing, right? You're getting sick MT09-ness, but, you know, you're not going to have a single cop look at you like a hoon. You know, they're going to see this and be like, oh, that's an old man. You know, which is pretty cool if you want to keep your license. It's got these bark busters. They're pretty cool. And it is comfortable. This is a very nice bike. So you're getting a lot of bike, right? You know, the MT09 base is very capable. It would not take a lot to dyno tune one of these to be putting out the same sort of figures as an MT09. But it's just pleasant to ride, you know? You're not copping shit in the face and your hands are protected. A couple of little heated grips here and you'll be set. It's got a really lovely position. Feel the back seat just pressing up against my lower back, giving me a bit of support, which is always handy. Yeah, we've got panniers on the back, so like it's actually a useful bike. And it feels pretty maneuverable. You know, I don't think it's too much heavier than a regular MT09. Obviously, if you put shit in the bags, it will be. But, you know, it can definitely still get up and boogie. Guarantee that. Now, I'd probably try and get the front wheel up if that was something that I could do. But I can't. But yeah, so this thing is genuinely a comfortable bike to ride. And that's not a common thing. I'd say this is almost comfier than the... Yeah, it's definitely like a better seating position than the CB. You know? Your mirrors you can see nicely out of, and they don't look as silly as they normally do on a sports bike because you got the rest of this stuff at the front. This is a very nice bike. So I have to commute, you know, at 110, oh, it's not 110, at 100 k's an hour on the way to work every day for 20-30 minutes. So something like this absolutely appeals to me now that I have to do that sort of shit, you know? Yeah, so because I have to commute every day, a bike like this definitely appeals to me, you know? You just sit at 100, 110 like if you were touring and just love life, you know? It does that sort of speed very easily. Yeah, this thing, 100 k's, well not 100, 80 k's an hour, this is just nice. And then it puts it in eco mode when you're cruising. So that's what, 4.8 litres per 100 at 80 k's an hour. You'd be loving it. Yeah, this is ticking all the boxes for me. I mean, obviously it's not the prettiest bike, right? It's a little bit ugly. It's one of those things that would grow on you, but straight off the box, like, it's not pretending to be a pretty bike. Like, it is what it is, but sometimes function over form, you know? Like, if I had to ride a bike every day, which I do, mind you, rain, hail or shine, this would be the sort of bike that I'd want. If purely for commuting, this is the bike you want. You know, you got the bags on the back, you're comfy, you can maneuver. I think the only issue you'd have here is a lot of our roads are pretty thin, so it makes filtering, which is now legal, a little bit more difficult. But, you know, feels a little bit more top heavy than the MT09. It doesn't feel as nice into these corners. Definitely doesn't feel bad, you know, it's a pretty quality bike. But you're also paying a lot less for one of these than you are for any of the other big sport tourers in this series, like the GS series by BMW. Obviously they're BMW, they're going to cost a lot of money, but Yamaha have done quite well in bringing out a cheap sport tourer, you know. You put a little one of those gel pads in the seat of this, and you could tear across the country. And with this sort of fuel economy, you'd be stopping a lot less for fuel. Oh, it's got a 6th gear. I'm not used to that. Yeah, so 6th gear, you're cruising. You know, it still sits into those corners pretty nicely. It's definitely not the peak of performance with all this extra stuff on it, but you know, you'd still be giving 600s a run for their money, I'd say. You know, imagine that. You got someone sitting on a Gixxer 600 at the lights. You pull up on one of these bad boys and smoke him. He'd be fuming. So shout out to the boys at Coasties for letting me take this one for a ride. Definitely go check them out. They're not paying me. They're just giving me bikes to ride. So I'm just test riding these basically. But the dudes down there are awesome. I cannot recommend them highly enough. So this is the part of the video where I give shout outs to Coasties. So get used to that. It's a bit annoying that it's 80 k's long here, because You know, I want to see what it sits like at 100. But, like, you know, we got a nice corner here, sitting at 80, staying at 80 through the corner, and it's, you know, that's pretty easy. That takes it like a champ. Alright, now we're in 100k zone, so we can see how she... Look at that, 100k's an hour, not using any fuel, and it's comfortable. So this is just, this is in A mode, so in the MT09 video I stuffed up the power mode thing, but A mode doesn't feel overly snatchy or anything. It feels pretty nice to use. Like you can, even rolling on in 6th, you just feel it lifting up that front end. Yeah, if you have to do any distance traveling to work at all, I'd go one of these. Yeah, the only real issue would be if you're pretty short, which I'm not, and if you had to do any really tight filtering, like inner city sort of stuff where the roads are a bit small. Other than that, you know, you don't have an issue. And it's got a gear indicator, which is pretty cool. What else is there to talk about? The brakes are the same as on the MT09, so, you know, they work quite well. They're good quality brakes. I think the suspension, obviously it's set up a little differently, but it's still pretty similar suspension. So, you know, it's quality. I know people have complained about the MT09 suspension in the past, but I just don't have the knowledge or expertise to you know, have an issue with it. I'm definitely not at that rider level where that makes a huge difference on my riding. You know, I haven't done any track days yet, so it's hard to make too much of a comment on that sort of thing, unfortunately, you know. But that's what happens in the real world, you know. Most people on the road aren't MotoGP riders. Yeah, 4th gear and it's cruising at easy, which you expect from a big bike, but you know, it's nice. And the panniers don't seem to be causing too much of an issue. They're very tucked away and out of here. They don't stick out as far as the bars, so you don't really have to worry about knocking shit with them, and they're quite low as well, so they don't mess up your, you know, fuel economy or wind resistance too much. Obviously they would have a little bit of drag, but you know, nothing too noticeable. This is a very nice bike to ride. I really like having big wired handles to hold on to, because I got big hands, you know, ladies. And you got a big easy to read display there. So what does that have on it? Let's try and figure that out. So it shows you how many kilometers you've done. You can get different laps. Shows you the temperature, the engine temperature, and your fuel average. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, an average of 4.8 litres per 100 on this thing, which is sick. That's very good fuel economy, because it's pretty economical. I mean, modern sports bikes are pretty economical, really. They've got enough technology with the fuel injection to sort of cut all that extra when you don't need it, and then as soon as you do need it, bang, give it to you, which is nice. Now this is probably, well, I've ridden a KLR, which is a little bit different. That's more of an adventure bike. But this is the first proper sports tourer I've ridden. I've ridden learner ones, but they're not to the same extent. And from my point of view, I really can't fault this bike. Well, like I said, I haven't been on enough to be able to fault it, you know, to find proper faults. But if I was looking at getting into that sort of touring especially individual. I don't know how you'd go 2 up, but if it was just me and I wanted to tour the country a bit, I think I'd be hard pressed to go past one of these. You know, they're like the MT09s. They're around that sort of $12,000 odd mark. But you know, puts them brand new, puts them in a bargain class of their own. You know, especially when you're probably looking closer to 20 for something like the bigger name tourers. I think second hand's a bit different. These are still fairly new, so you won't find many second hand. But yeah, you know, it is a very enjoyable ride. It's not a sort of grab you by the scruff of the neck type of ride, which, you know, a lot of people are younger. But if you've been riding for a little bit and you're used to big powerful bikes, you know, this is nice. Definitely think in another 5-10 years I can see myself on something like this, just taking it easy, you know, little older, a little more prone to the elements. You'd find me on one of these pretty easily, I reckon. Hell, even now. Yeah, no, definitely not an overly snatchy throttle or anything like that. It's also hard to get a full sense of it riding it in the streets, but you know, that's what people do 95% of the time. Is, you know, if you're a commuter like me and you're on one of these, you're riding to and from work and stuff like that. Not the most agile bike, not the fastest bike, but a nice bike to ride, I'd say. You know, it's a yes from me. Gets the temp sits tick of approval. I do like that gauge as well. I reckon that looks pretty cool. Well, thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments below if there's anything you feel differently about this bike or anything you want to see me do a review on. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. And I will catch you boys and girls on the next video, which I believe will be an R1M. So keep an eye out for that one. And see you all very soon. Bye.